When the bad guys are the good guys, or are the good guys the bad guys? 44 Idaho police disciplined for misconduct in 2020, including a sheriff charged with RAPE. Welcome to 1111 True Crime. Everything I express today is my creative expression. It is alleged, and I invite you to do your own research, form your own opinion. Let's dig into this. Let's start off here with the EastIdahoNews.com. 44 Idaho police disciplined. Got it. This was published May 17th, 2021. Boise, Idaho statesman. One was a sheriff who RAPED'd a minor. Another was an officer who stole money from clients of his property management business. These are among the former law enforcement officials who were stripped of their certifications last year. In 2020, 44 Idaho police officers had their law enforcement certifications revoked because of misconduct, according to records provided to the Idaho Statesman by Idaho Peace Officer Standards and Training. Some of the more notable decertification cases in 2020 included two former police officers and a former county sheriff, all three convicted of felonies. Former Lincoln County Sheriff Rene Rodriguez resigned in April 2019 after being charged with sexually abusing a child in Blaine County. A jury later found him guilty on multiple counts of lewd conduct with a child under the age of 16 and single counts of rape and child sexual abuse. On May 21, 2020, Rodriguez was sentenced to at least 14 years in prison. Are you kidding me? That's it? His post certification was revoked weeks later on June 10th, according to Post records. Brandon Curtis, a former member of the Nez Perce Tribal Police, pleaded guilty on February 6, 2020 to one count of felony grand theft after he was accused of stealing nearly $50,000 from clients at his Meridian-based property management company. Curtis is also a former leader of the far-right group 3% of Idaho and traveled to Oregon to provide, quote, security in the 2016 occupation of the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. John Maney, a former deputy with the Nez Perce County Sheriff's Office, was decertified on July 16th after he pleaded guilty to a felony count of tax evasion. He was sentenced to 3 years of supervised probation in order to perform community service. You know, it just really makes me wonder, how do we know which people are good? Like, it's bad enough that we have, civilians that are bad, but then when people have power, like the law enforcement, and they're bad, SA of a child, it blows my mind. Just blows my mind. Let's talk about this. Moscow Police Department is not in compliance. Check this out. Welcome to our Brady List, the Great Seal of the State of Idaho. What is the Brady List? The Idaho Brady List includes all known issues of police misconduct, do not call status, decertification, public complaints, use of force records, and citizen reports. Currently, Idaho is not in compliance with the nationwide public-facing platform on record, the Brady List, and then you can see here the Supreme Court of the United States, Brady Doctrine, the U.S. Freedom of Information Act in 1967, the State Sunshine Law, Open Government Act, Open Government Initiative, Open Government Directives issued by the United States Department of Justice. So that is very interesting. It has a lot of issues. But what I found very, very interesting is when we break it down to Moscow and we're looking at the Brady List, this is what comes up. Michael Arp, Moscow Police Department, Idaho. Peter Comstock, Moscow Police Department, Idaho, and Philip Gray, Moscow Police Department, Idaho. Let's view Michael Arp. It simply says criminal charges and or conviction. Let's view Peter Comstock and see if we can find out anything. Again, the same thing, criminal charges. He's been decertified. Let's look at that. It won't give me the specifics. Dang. Let's see what comes up. Oh, this guy allegedly posted revealing photos of his ex-girlfriend on the internet without her permission. Philip Gray, view profile. See what we get for Philip Gray. Now, he gets decertified as well. Why? No info. Well, this is interesting. Bill Gray, crime victim services advocate at Alternative to Violence on Palooza, Pullman, Washington. Well, now that's interesting. Okay, Sergeant Bill A. Gray. So here in 2008, he got a Medal of Honor. Student Resource Officer, August 2007 to August 2015. Deputy. Okay, so he was a deputy. And he works for the University of Idaho. And he is a crime victim. And he, okay. What? He's a crime victim. I wonder when he was doing this. Present. He is currently a crime victim service advocate. Alternatives to Violence on Palooza, Pullman, Washington. Director, 21st Century Community Learning Center, Potlatch, Idaho. University of Idaho 4-H. He worked with kids. Student Resource Officer. Deputy. Why was he fired? Or not fired, but you know what I'm saying. We need more on him. Bill Gray. This is the problem. This is the problem. All right. Let's continue. When you look at some of these things, the Supreme Court of the United States, Brady Doctrine, everyone is entitled to due process clause, right? Their 14th Amendment of the United States, which is to be exonerated by exculpatory evidence. And Brady versus Maryland was a landmark in the United States Supreme Court that established that the prosecution must turn over all evidence that might exonerate the defendant. So that's a problem. If Idaho, the state, is not in compliance with that, are you kidding me? Look at this Freedom of Information Act. We all know what that is. FOIAs, right? So they're not compliant with that. Sunshine State law. Let's look at that. State sunshine laws are the laws in each state that govern public access to governmental records. These laws are sometimes known as open record laws or public record laws. A little bill here for Idaho. Look at that. Bill to Idaho, the state, right? So Moscow Police Department is not in compliance. And one of them, Bill Gray, has got my attention. Let's talk about this a little bit. So I've been thinking about it. You've got 2 victims per room in the IDAHO4 case. When you think of that, that's like 4 defensive hands because you have 2 people, each person has 2 hands. But then if there's only one perpetrator, they only have 2 hands. So that gets complicated, and to get out of there in a short amount of time. So I was looking at the idea, all right, so if the perpetrator, the attacker, has one hand on a knife, what is the other hand holding? What is the other hand holding? I don't think they're going to be holding the people down or pressing on the people or touching the people, because I think it's something else. So only one of each pair of victims. So we had the two downstairs, which was Xana and Ethan. Then we had two upstairs, which was Kaylee and Maddie. So only one of each pair of the two victims reportedly had defensive wounds, and that would be Xana and Kaylee. Now, Xana and Kaylee allegedly were found in the upright sitting position and had the defensive wounds, including, we've all heard that Xana sounds like her fingers were almost severed off. So my question is, why no report of defensive wounds for other victims, Ethan and Maddie? It's almost as if they didn't have a chance to fight back. And I wondered, were they subdued, like with tasers? And that got me thinking. And so I went on a little bit, and I found out through the PCA that some of the most chilling details included this revelation that the camera from a home less than 50 feet from Xana's bedroom recorded what sounded like a whimper and a loud thud. The PCA goes on, Brett Payne's affidavit here says at approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at 1112 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest of 1122 King Road, picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices and a whimper, followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m., and the security cam is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kernoodle's room. I thought about that, and I'm like, sounded like a whimper and a loud thud. So what kind of mark would a taser leave anyway? And when I looked at this, I was like, that's it? From my understanding, allegedly, there was not a lot of recording of the autopsy, if any. And I wonder, were they hiding something? Were the victims, Ethan and Maddie, were they tased? Who can own a taser in Idaho? Not that, a criminal can't get one, but I just found it interesting, so I looked it up. In Idaho, stun guns and tasers are legal to possess and use for self-defense. However, there are some restrictions you need to be aware of. You must be at least 18 years old to purchase or possess a stun gun. You cannot use a stun gun in the commission of a crime. So I was like, the loud thud, the whimper and a loud thud made me think of like somebody getting tased and then dropped on the spot. Do tasers work more than once? Many taser models can shoot only one pair of darts before changing the firing cartridge that clips into the front of the weapon. But some can hold 2 or even 3 cartridges, allowing for more shots before reloading. The X2 model, shown here, holds 2 cartridges, so it can be fired 2 sets of darts without reloading. And that made me think of the officers in plain clothes. Who were the officers in plain clothes, plain black clothes on the Banfield around the time of the quad homicide? I need to understand what is going on here. It's not a call that they got called to the location. They're wearing all black plain clothing and they're driving an unmarked car. And listen to the reason to the guys when the guys ask why they're not in their police cars.
Couple beers. Cheers. Yeah. Hard liquor or anything like that? No. Hey, is that beer?
What's up?
Is that beer in your hand?
Yeah, I'm 21.
You got your ID on you?
I don't.
Okay.
I'll take it back to my apartment if you need.
Okay. You have a driver's license?
I don't have it.
In general.
I do have one, yeah.
What state is it through?
Idaho.
Okay. I'm just going to check if everything's good. Since they're not open, I'll let you hang on to them.
Okay. So I get charged with anything?
No.
Or?
No.
Okay. Appreciate it.
But it's just enough for me to stop, check, make sure you're 21, walking
Yeah,
out
I
here in
get it.
public.
Alright.
Moscow 77, check one. What's that?
Am I gonna take off or?
No, let me run this through dispatch, make sure you're actually 21 and give me a fake birth date or anything. Well, yeah.
I won't lie to you. That's funny.
Yeah, I think that's the first one I've seen.
Yeah.
One. So if that comes back good, yeah, you're free to go. Are these your boys?
No, I don't know them.
Okay. Yeah. You guys taking off on me?
I didn't hear you.
Yeah,
I'm
we
sorry
thought
about
you were
that.
talking.
You all three turned around and I pointed my flashlight. You said, "Hey, come here." You guys all turned around and walked away.
I thought it was just like a fake person, honestly. Yeah, like
How many fake people are out here that you've experienced?
sorry, something.
How's your night going?
Pretty good.
That's good.
Trying to stay warm.
Is that y'all's car right there?
Gas. They downgraded us from patrol cars.
Gotcha.
They gave us hybrids to save on fuel.
There you go.
Smart move, smart move.
Which lets me know that actually exists. I'll catch you later. All right.
No worries.
Why don't you guys all have to drink tonight?
Couple beers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Any hard liquor or anything like that?
No.
Come on, guy. All right, if you guys all want to stand somewhere in this area.
I've asked this in the other video, but I'm going to continue to ask till I get an answer. Why are the U of I security officers in plain clothes near 1122 King Road home at the time of the quadruple homicides? This is the other officer getting out of the vehicle. Notice he is dressed in completely black, but not uniform. That blows my mind. In the unmarked car. And nobody called them out. There is no report saying somebody called them out to this location. What are they doing? I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm asking, what do you think they could be doing? The description of the perpetrator is all black, plain clothes, and driving an unmarked white car. U of I security is in all black, plain clothes, and an unmarked white car. The question I have is, what are their names? I'd like to know these officers. And look, this is actually a photograph that was taken at the time of the homicides. Where are their hybrids in those pictures? Most of us have seen this, but I thought I'd roll it anyway.
3, 4, almost as though they're walking in single file. Out at night, at 3 o'clock in the morning, actually closer to 3:12 in the morning. And as you watch those four figures, remember, police say the murders happened between 3 and 4 in the morning. Did those people see something? Who are they? Have police track them down? Ask them any questions? Rule them out? And again, if they're ruled out, did they see something as they were on foot, walking just steps away from where the murders happened? We do not.
Who are these 4 unknown people caught on the security cam? That's what we need to know.
Out at night? At 3 o'clock in the morning?
What were the cops doing there, you guys? What was law enforcement clad in black for? Were they guarding the property? Did they know something was up? Did they hear rumors? Did they get wind that there was going to be a shakedown? Were they trying to find out what was going on? I'm trying to give them the benefit of a doubt. Or were they using tasers that night? Were those 4 individuals ever identified? Were they ever questioned? Now, what is very scary is when you think about the fact that we have investigators involved in Koberg's case that are under investigation. Moscow says, you'll have to trust us. No, we really don't. Brian Kohlberger was from Pullman, Washington, so I thought I'd look into that because the 2 police departments do work together quite often. So February 8th of 2023, about 4 weeks after the Idaho 4 murders. Pullman, Washington reported a stranger abduction attempt and a peeping Tom on the campus. And I thought, that's very interesting.
Pullman police are investigating reports of a man who tried to force himself into the apartment of a young woman he doesn't know. The victim posted her story on Facebook, and it is getting a lot of attention tonight. So much attention, in fact, that Pullman PD addressed it on its own Facebook page.
KREM 2's Amanda Rowley went to Pullman today to learn more about what happened. She is joining us live from the Pullman Police Department. Amanda, what have you learned so far?
I confirmed this afternoon Pullman police are investigating an attempted abduction of a PhD international student at Washington State University. Now, that student is okay, but police are still searching for the suspect. Meantime, students who live near where this incident happened are feeling uneasy tonight.
Recent events on the Palouse over the last few months have understandably put the Pullman community on edge. And now there's even more concern after someone tried to force their way into a WSU student's apartment Friday night.
Oh my gosh, that's scary because it's like right here where I'm living at.
Selena Salou lives a few doors down from where the incident happened. She learned about the attempted abduction in a group chat.
Just to even walk out, to go to your car, just like throw the trash away, it's like scary because it's like you're like now it's like you have to look where you're going and watching like who's like out and stuff because it's like you can't really trust anyone now.
The rest of the community learned about what happened after the victim posted about it online. According to that post, after walking home Friday night, the PhD student noticed a black car parked outside her apartment. She says it was running and the trunk was left open. She got inside the apartment, but when she went to close the door, a man grabbed the door handle and tried forcing himself inside. The post says she had to use her full body weight to close and lock the door. She reported this to police shortly after, and then, out of fear, she left Pullman as soon as she could.
We need the community's help.
Commander Aaron Brashears says officers arrived on scene within minutes and made extra patrols that night, but they did not find the man or the black car. He says the man is described as approximately 5'5" and was seen wearing a green sweatshirt. Police are also searching for a black sedan, possibly a Nissan Altima with faded black paint and no license plates. Right now, officers are investigating all possible leads, talking to neighbors, and asking the community to share any information that may be helpful to the investigation.
If there is a logical explanation for the circumstances, I would ask that the person responsible give us a call and explain if there is a logical explanation.
It's scary to just think about because it's like I can't even like walk out without like being like paranoid, like who's watching me and stuff, or like what if this happens to me.
In the meantime, Selena plans to be extra cautious and keep her head on a swivel.
The U of Washington, University of Washington, law enforcement was under investigation in 2022. And the reason that Dawn Daniels got her position is because she was promoted after heads rolled at the top of the Pullman Police Department. So now Dawn Daniels is the assistant chief for the Pullman Police Department. 3 Washington State University police commanders retiring amid sexual misconduct investigation of fellow officer. Police Chief Bill Gardner, Assistant Chief Steve Hansen, and Captain Mike Larson are retiring after being served notice in late July of pending disciplinary action. This was taking place August 9th, 2022, 3 months prior to the Idaho 4 murders.
A Washington State University police officer is under investigation following allegations that he engaged in sexual activities while on duty. And now 3 high-ranking members of the department are leaving their jobs. KREM 2's Amanda Rowley explains why in this developing story from Pullman tonight.
2 years ago, WSU Police Command staff learned one of its officers engaged in sexual activities while on duty. That command staff conducted an internal investigation instead of reporting this to the university. Now that they face possible termination, the chief, assistant chief, and captain all plan to retire.
Washington State University says a WSU police officer reported the allegations to command staff from a third-party source. They claimed Sergeant Sergeant Matt Kurt engaged in non-consensual sexual activity. The reporting officer later clarified it was consensual, but it happened while the officer was on duty. WSU spokesperson Phil Weiler says the inappropriate activity allegedly happened in the presidential suite at Martin Stadium and at the WSU Observatory.
It does look like there were multiple individuals he was involved in. Some of them were employees at the time or currently.
To the best of his knowledge, none of the people involved were underage or a student at the time. WSU policy requires such claims to be reported to the university. Since the command staff didn't do this, they could face possible termination. As the university conducts its own investigation, Sergeant Kurt and the command staff were put on home assignment. But now the university says Police Chief Bill Gardner, Assistant Chief Steve Hansen, and Captain Mike Larson are now retiring.
Former Pullman Police Chief Gary Jenkins retired this year. He is now committed to serving as WSU's interim police chief while the university searches for a permanent replacement.
I would like to introduce to you Matt Kurt. He was a former police sergeant, and he was accused of sexually assaulting a Washington State University student, and he resigned after investigation found he engaged in predatory grooming behavior and had sex on duty. Pullman, Washington, a Washington State University police sergeant, had resigned following investigations into sexual misconduct while he was on duty. An investigation by the university determined that Sergeant Matt Hurt 1. Engaged in predatory grooming behavior while in a supervisorial role. 2. Made sexually explicit comments to coworkers. 3. Subjected coworkers to non-consensual physical contact. 4. Engaged in sexual activities while on duty and on university property. Kurt is the fourth member of the campus police force to leave the department in connection with the disciplinary action. In August, 3 members of the department's command staff retired, quote, before they could be disciplined for the mishandling of claims involving the sergeant when the allegations first surfaced, according to WSU. This is a little bit before that time, but I want you to really listen to this one. Pullman police officer resigns after arrest on charge of sexually assaulting WSU student. Introducing ex-Pullman police sergeant Dan Hargraves. Judge ended up ruling a mistrial in Pullman police sergeant's sexual misconduct trial. County prosecutor Dennis Tracy said it will now be up to him to decide if he will pursue the case for another trial. Jurors told the prosecutor some of the testimonies didn't match up and there were discrepancies with when the victim was in Hargraves' patrol car. They also had more questions about the DNA found on the victim's clothing and wanted more information on cell phone locations that were presented as evidence. Let's get into this a little bit. Hargraves resigned on November 29, 2018 amid the investigation into sexual misconduct claims. Police said he was arrested about a month before as a result of an investigation that began in April of 2018 when a female Washington State University student reported she was sexually assaulted. Pullman Police Chief Gary Jenkins said the internal investigation was completed without a statement from Hargraves. The investigation found that Hargraves violated a number of department policies, including involvement in criminal conduct, failure to activate his body camera as required, failure to make proper notifications when transporting a female, and improper treatment of a person in custody, Jenkins said. Sexual assault investigation. Washington State Patrol began investigating allegations that Hargraves sexually assaulted a student while she was intoxicated in March. Court documents said the student was contacted 3 different times about underage drinking on March 30th. Investigating documents stated that the victim was, quote, staggering and appeared intoxicated. Hargraves and another officer both contacted the victim and told her to stay into her dorm room for the rest of the night, according to investigating documents. The second time Hargraves contacted the victim, he told her, quote, "You disobeyed me. I told you to not leave your dorm room before. Now I have to take you to the station because you didn't obey my orders," investigative documents say. Documents say the victim told Hargraves, quote, "I'll do anything to not get arrested," he replied with, quote, "What are you willing to do?" according to the court documents. According to court documents, the victim said she was thinking she would, quote, "have to pay him a good sum of money." She told him she would do, quote, "like anything," documents stated. The victim told investigators, quote, "It became very quiet in the police vehicle, and Hargraves stopped the vehicle a few minutes later," end quote. Court documents said cell phone location indicated they stopped in the Rainy Park area. The victim told investigators that Hargraves, quote, instructed her to get out of the car and get down on her knees. And she, quote, remembered hearing him undo his pants. She said she had a, quote, vague recollection of performing oral sex on Hargraves and, quote, she later wiped her face with her sleeve when they were done, court documents said. Court document says Hargraves told her to get back in the car and ask her where she wanted to be dropped off. He later dropped her off at Rogers Hall, documents said. On April 5th, the victim called the Office for Equal Opportunities to report the incident, according to court documents. According to court documents, WSP swabbed both officers' cars on April 9th and no DNA evidence was found. They also looked at both officers' phones but found no evidence regarding the allegations. On April 18th, court documents said the victim had an interview with detectives where, quote, she provided details and a timeline as well as identifying Hargraves from PPD website as the officer that made her perform a sexual act. According to court records, the victim also provided detectives with her clothing that she wore the night of the incident, and it was sent to the Washington State Patrol Crime Laboratory for DNA analysis. On June 11th, a WSP forensic scientist, quote, located sperm on the sleeve of the victim's clothing. The next day, court documents said detectives got a search warrant for Hargraves' DNA. By August 14th, a WSP forensic scientist found the DNA on the victim's clothing matched Hargraves' DNA sample. Hargraves was also the subject of an investigation in 2016 when he allegedly sent inappropriate text messages to a female employee at the police station. So I ask you, who can we trust? Moscow, LA investigators involved in Kohlberger's case are currently under investigation while Kohlberger is actually building his case for trial? Are you kidding me? We have University of Washington law enforcement in 2022 investigation with all that information about the students, right? If Moscow, LA is not in compliance with Brady, Giglio, list, then how can Brian Kohlberger get a fair trial? Innocent or guilty? How can it be fair to him with all the dirty shenanigans going on behind the scenes? All I can say is the world is watching.